how's everybody doing? Welcome to the podcast, episode 6. Always be insanely prepared. ABIP. Remember that. Always be insanely prepared. I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast last week with Mike Pappas on the forecast for 2023. Hope we you picked up on some little tidbits, some little nuggets to help you in your business in 2023. But today's podcast, we're going to shift to things that will help you throughout the year, that will help me throughout the year, things that I've done to help build my business. And it's something that I think can help you as well, no matter what business you're in, whether it's luxury real estate, whether you're selling life insurance, whatever it is. I think these things can help you in your business. So always be insanely prepared. What does that mean to me? What does that mean to you? I mean, you're always prepared. If you go out to a listing presentation, you're meeting with a prospect, a client, you're always prepared, right? Everybody gets prepared. They put together their comps. They put together their the firm that they work with, right? It's typical standard things that a real estate agent will do when they're going out to meet a prospect, right? I do it. We all do it. But what do I mean when I say always be insanely prepared? Well, I took the word insane and added it because that's what I do. I get insanely prepared, almost neurotic. So, of course, I bring the typical things to an introductory meeting with a client, whether it's a seller or a buyer of luxury real estate. But I go that extra step because at the end of the day, right, there's lots of us out there and you have to differentiate yourself from the pack because the pack is out there. Pack may dwindle in the next 12 months, but the pack is definitely out there. So what do I do to insanely prepare? Well, one of the things I like to do always is I like to know the history, of the neighborhood, of course, and no matter where it is, if it's 100 miles away from where my office is, I do the research. I see what's happening in the town. I see if there's any changes in regulations on building because that happens, right? There's actually a perfect example in the Florida Keys right now is going to put a moratorium on building in about 2 years. So if you own a property down there and you're thinking about building in 2.5 years, it ain't happening. So there's things that you need to pick up on before you walk into that meeting with the client. So do a little homework, right? Do some research on the town, on the neighborhood, the history. I think that always bodes well for a conversation with the client, other than just the typical things that we all use, pricing and typical marketing strategy. Another thing that I think you need to think about as well to be insanely prepared, right, is use the 50-50 rule, right? What's the 50-50 rule? I think 50% of the time that is spent with a new relationship or an existing relationship should be you should talk about the task at hand, right? Getting the job done. How are you going to get the job done? Your track record, your trophy assets, the things that are going to make, the things that will make them want to hire you. But then the other 50%, which I think is the golden ticket, is the relationship side of it, which is the personal connection. And that's being insanely prepared. Do a little homework on the seller or the buyer before you go out to see them. Maybe they were the chairman of a public company that you brought product from. Maybe it's in an industry that you played a role in. Maybe it's something in your past that of a company that you worked with, that you were affiliated with. Whatever it is, you can use that as a tool to make the connection, right? To make that personal connection with that new potential client. And I think if you think about that 50-50 rule in 2023, maybe you're already doing it, but if you're not, don't always focus so much on just the standard delivery of your services, because then you're in the pack, you're with everybody else. Differentiate yourself from the pack. And I think that is critical if you're looking to take your business to the next level, and especially if you're looking to launch into luxury real estate. If you don't make a personal connection with the client, you're cooked. There's no interest. You want to have some creativity on your dialogue with the client, right? I'm very interested in hearing their history and their track record and their background. To me, that makes real estate exciting and fun, right? It puts a personality to the transaction, right? And not just a transaction. And it may be hard to do. I mean, somebody might be listening and, and they aspire to do 500 deals a year. I have no interest in doing 500 deals a year. I'm a relationship agent. I'm a relationship luxury advisor, and that's what I do. So if you're looking to build a business and you want to do 30, 40, 50 deals a year, I think that's kind of that's a reasonable number to have relationships. Once you get beyond that, not too sure, unless you're just a broker that has building a big business with agents that are going to work for you and things like that. That's a wholly different animal. But if you're just an individual agent with one or two people and you're looking to grow your business, I think that's really important, is to make that personal connection. Always be insanely prepared. And I think that'll help you. So the 50-50 rule in 2023. And also being insanely prepared means to be up to speed on what's going on in the economy. You don't have to be an expert. I'm not saying you have to know exactly what the Fed is doing every minute, but know what's happening with interest rates. Read the Wall Street Journal, read Inman, read The Real Deal. These are publications that can help you. And you don't have to be the expert, but if you share that knowledge, based on the things that you read, it helps you to become insanely prepared, right? Insanely prepared. And then you'll be insanely prepared for market shifts. You'll be insanely prepared for things that maybe the client might ask you, during your meeting, because you're insanely prepared. You'll be able to answer them. And if you don't know the answer, don't guess, right? Get the answer. You'll come back to them. Very, very important. Don't guess. So I'll give you a couple examples of being insanely prepared. I carry my iPad everywhere. I'm a big believer in the Apple iPad because I have all my content on it. I think that's a way that if you have it with you at all times, we carry our iPhones all over the place. Have it in your car. You bring it into Starbucks. You see everybody hanging out with Starbucks. Wherever you are, you always have it. Because you never know when you're insanely prepared when an opportunity will arise. And let's give two examples of being insanely prepared. We were at a local restaurant, and happened to overhear the people sitting next to us. We weren't eavesdropping. It was just a restaurant where tables were very close, so you had no choice to hear what the people sitting next to you were talking about. So this particular couple were talking about the racetrack, the horses. So I said, wow, that's interesting. And the gentleman was actually watching a race on his phone, and he was rooting for a horse. Listen, I love a good underdog. I love the long shot. So he got my ear. So I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm from Long Branch, New Jersey. I've been in Florida for 7-8 years. And we had a great track, Monmouth Park. And he said, holy shit, Monmouth Park. I was one of the biggest trainers at Monmouth Park. So we ended up having a nice conversation about the horses. Told him I used to sneak into the track when I was 13 years old and ask somebody to make a bet for me. Shows you what a degenerate gambler I was when I was 13. And actually, I did hit one time on a long shot. We went to Chess King, me and my cousin Carmine, and we bought shirts like disco, like we were going to a disco, 13 years old. But the point is, I was insanely prepared because I had my iPad. So the woman said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, actually, I'm actually in luxury real estate business, and I work for Illustrated Properties. And, we're one of the largest in the state of Florida, and we do a great job. And she said, do you do listing videos? Whew. Do I do listing videos? I mean, that's like the question to ask me. Oh my God. Do I do listing videos? Absolutely. Something that I'm passionate about. So because I was insanely prepared, I had my iPad with me. I was able to pop that baby open, and just so happened to be that I had some amazing listing videos to share with her. And she was super impressed. Her home had just expired. It was listed with a national luxury agency, which is prone to overpricing real estate. I love getting those listings. So I went and met with her. I met with her children, and she liked my style. And it came down to me and a few other usual suspects. and I got the job. And I sold her property upwards towards $10 million about 90 days later, after I'd sat on the market for a year with a competitor. So being insanely prepared got me an unbelievable listing, and it was almost a $10 million deal because I wasn't just prepared. I was insanely prepared. So remember, ABIP, be insanely prepared. And if you do that in 23, I have a feeling you'll have an edge against your competition. Another example of being, thinking out of the box and being insanely prepared. This goes back to my old business, right? When I was in the financial services business as a private banker. Those that know my background, I did that for 21 or 22 years. I was in the rat race. So I remember, I used to have these once a month dinners for 10, 12 clients. And we'd have them on Park Avenue or we'd have them on Madison Avenue. And I'd bring in a speaker, chief economist, an investment banker in a specific industry. And what I used is, to be insanely prepared for that, right? Which I was always insanely prepared, even in that industry. I thought out of the box and I said, you know what? I was reading in Bloomberg magazine, again, being prepared. I was reading and learning. And I came across an article in Bloomberg about private equity masters of the universe who are cashing out of their companies that they've had in their portfolios. And their new thing, what they're doing is they're buying wineries in Napa Valley, in Bordeaux, in Healdsburg, all these cool places where you can have a vineyard. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I came across a guy that was in Bloomberg magazine, and, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to cold call him because I loved making cold calls. Cold calls are fun. Don't be afraid of the phone. So I cold called him. Turns out that when I got through to him, I said I was calling him about his wine. And so he called me back and he said, you are the first private banker to call me out of New York City. He was in California, up in near Napa. You were the first private banker in the industry to ever call me and not ask me for my money. I asked him for his wine. And guess what? That's thinking out of the box, right? That's being insanely prepared. And he sent the wine for my dinner. It was amazing. That was 10 years ago. And today, we still have a very strong relationship. And he is probably one of the most well-known private equity founders in the world, without mentioning names. And there's probably a good chance that everybody listening on this podcast probably flew on one of the commercial planes of a company that he owned in his fund that he later took public. That's just one of the largest airlines now in the world. So being, going that extra mile, doing that extra step, being overly prepared, being insanely prepared will differentiate yourself from the pack and help you in your business in 2023. So with that, I really appreciate everybody listening to this podcast. I think if you take that into the year and make sure that when you're in front of those clients, you make that personal connection, they will become, not only will you win the business, they will become lifelong relationships that may ring the bell several times throughout your career. With that, I'm going to call it quits, and I'll speak to everybody next week on episode 7. I'm going to have an awesome guest coming up too on episode 8, where we're going to focus on branding. But I appreciate everybody downloading this podcast. Share it with your friends. Go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, download it, share it, give me a rating. I really appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten. And again, open to all your questions, nash.billy on Instagram, or check out all the luxurious content on our website, nashluxury.com. I love you. Have a productive year and go get some deals done.